World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
Good afternoon. Tony Rogers, your host for Urbanology, The Art of War. I'm hoping that in the middle of July we'll be getting to have some time, even though we have to dodge a few raindrops, but have some time to enjoy summer because it's going to be over soon. We're in the middle of July, August, and the next thing we know, we'll be talking about a new year. But let's not move so fast. That's what, especially as you get a little older, you don't want things to move as fast as that, but they seem to sometimes do. I am happy to have a friend as a guest today, a person who I've known for a number of years. Actually, it's interesting. I believe we met during Harlem Week many, many years ago. But I've grown to respect him, his family, his wife. They're members of the Harlem community, but have been so much a part of the entertainment industry as it relates to producing TV shows, being in movies, directing, and the like. So it's always a pleasure to bring on my good friend who is actually debuting another FX show that will be on Hulu tomorrow. So this is a good time. And I didn't know that before he came on, because I was going to talk to him about another program on Netflix that he's in. But Vondie Curtis Hall, welcome to Urbanology, Vondie. I hope Vondie is still here.
Yeah, I'm still
Okay.
here. They had me back. They had me backstage.
Oh, I see. I see. Well, I'm glad that you're front and center as always. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to see you again. Always,
And
my
for
brother.
those again who may not remember him by name, Randy is one of those actors that once you see him and you start looking at shows, you say, "Oh, I know him. I know that guy. You know,
Yeah.
he's your. How does it feel to have your? I guess it's good from a commercial business wise to have your face in some cases be known greater than your name, but
Right.
if you're in your business, because people say, "Yeah, I know him. Yeah, I know that guy."
Yeah.
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 How
Yeah.
does that feel?
That's the. Yeah, it's a good feeling, especially walking through Harlem, like you said. I'm also a Harlemite. You are walking down 125th Street. Just the number of people that come and go. Did we go to high school together? You work at the post office? Were we in the penitentiary together? Whatever it could be. Yeah. Were you my teacher? It's like I know
Yeah,
you.
it's interesting. One of the things that I think is important too, even though you have been able to, you and your wife have been able to reach a certain level of success, you still are able to walk down 125th Street
Absolutely.
and be a person who is part of the universe rather than part of Hollywood.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I love that. That I don't have paparazzi chasing me down the street, and I can live my life and just hang with folks and go to Whole Foods. Shop.
Well, it's more of a, I guess, and as you know, because we've worked together in spiritual components, it's what you are and what you do is a radiation that allows for your energy to be just like your name may not catch up with your face, but the energy of your face makes me understand that I know you. And that has been, I'm sure, a gift based on what you do.
Yeah.
And you're also juggling around. You teach at NYU. What are the things that you teach? What are the courses?
I teach directing, and I teach screenwriting, and I teach directing the actor. So I teach production classes where we'll develop a script in one semester, and then they'll shoot it the following semester. And I work with young directors on how to interact with actors, communication, how to get good performances out of them. Mm-hmm. So it's a great. I've taught a number of different classes at NYU, but those are my three core classes.
Have you had any graduates that made you smile because you figure you had a little bit to do with what they're doing now?
Let's see. I don't know if I had. I certainly have. There are a couple women that I recommended who I thought were very talented writers who joined the writers' rooms of Shonda Rhimes shows. Very talented young women who I sort of reached out for them on their behalf to get them in the door. But of course, the door opened and they burst their way in. Right. So I was happy to be a part of that and to sort of help them launch their writing careers.
It's a hard business.
Yes.
And we were just talking about that off live that a lot of people, when they hear about the writers and actors going on strike, they tend to say, well, you're making all this money. Why, what are you going on strike to get more money? But
Yeah.
what a lot of people don't understand is that there's only a very few people who you hear about
Yeah.
that are making money.
Yeah.
But there are a large number of people, black and brown and red and yellow and white, who struggle
Absolutely.
and
I mean,
need to have some of that income that's being taken away from them based on their work.
yeah,
And a lot of
absolutely. I
people
mean,
don't understand that.
when you talk about, if you talk about the stats, only 85% of actors are unemployed at any given time. So you got, and only 12% of actors make over $1,000 a year. So when you start talking about, you talk, and the median income for an actor is about $50,000 a year. So, that's not really even in many cases a solid middle class income for the average actor.
Which is why you have to do your waiters and bartenders.
So many actors are waiters, they're bartenders, they're all these things because it is very difficult to make a living as an actor. And so, when you talk about the 1%, you talk about these 1%, that has nothing to do with the rest of the community. They'll talk to me about Denzel, or Sam Jackson, as a regular actor. I mean, I've been fortunate, so I'm in, maybe I'm in the 3% or 4 percentile. I don't know what, but I'm certainly not in the 1 percentile. I'm not making $20 million a movie. But by and large, the actors trying to make a living are depending on, doing an episode of Law and Order, an episode of whatever TV show is out there, or they're doing maybe they do a guest spot on some Netflix series or something. And so the journey is really trying to make a living, sustaining a living. It used to be that you if you were to go into acting, if you were to put in the same amount of time as you would an accountant, you were kind of guaranteed kind of a middle class life, right?
Right.
But that's kind of changed in terms of just what's available. The salaries have not increased for the rank and file of actors. So
And the networking
are getting more money by having more participation as the media companies have exponentially grown in profits and what have you, and actors want to be able to share in some of that profit relative to residuals. You show my face a number of different times. We just talked about before we got on, or you talked about a bit earlier, how you're seeing shows from old shows and what have you. Every time one of those play, the network or the studio or producers get money.
Yeah.
And so do the actors, but the actors want a larger participation in that residual.
And what they do.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. And from my understanding, this is the first time in a number of years that both the writers and the actors were on strike. So that probably is going to be a tremendous. You're going to see that if that lasts, starting in the fall.
Yeah, you'll definitely see it, and it's it's a big power game because a lot is at stake with AI. Being able to now write scripts with AI, you being able to scan someone's face and use that actor again in whatever.
Mission Impossible, huh?
Yeah, and so actors want to guarantee that they are going to be compensated for these things, that there are some guardrails for using our images and what have you. And so hopefully it won't last forever. I mean, it's like you said, both unions are on strike. It's the first time in 60 years. And so the stakes are high, but as technology moves on, everybody wants to be protected.
And the unfortunate thing, and I guess we can end with this because I want to talk about some of your projects. But the unfortunate thing is that the money is there.
The money is there.
That's what makes it really unfortunate, because it's not as if the money is not there. Matter of fact, the money is probably there 10 times the way it was before.
Yeah. But, the money is there. And I think they're arguing, and the boards of the big media companies are screaming, more profits, cut costs, larger margins. But the money is there. They have to, share
it. Figure out share a little bit of it. Huh?
Share a little bit of it.
Well, listen, I know that I just found out in talking with you behind stage that you have a new series that you're on this having its debut this evening. However, I wanted to talk about the Netflix piece that hopefully, I think that's going to start again.
Yeah.
The spy. You were the head of the CIA.
Yeah.
That was interesting. I had
the recruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a big show. We're gonna. I was supposed to leave next week to head off to start shooting the second season. Of course, we got the strike now, so I'll be sitting at home looking out at the water. But yeah, that's it's a great show. We're very, very happy about the success of that show, and premiered.
It was interesting. Matter of fact, it ended, like when we were young and we'd be going to the movies, and then they would have did he survive? You got to come back next week to see chapter 3, to see the cliffhanger. What happened?
Definitely big cliffhanger with this one. It's I can't talk about what's going to happen next season, but
it's going to be interesting.
Another CIA romp through international spy.
So what about this new one that's coming out tonight?
Tonight, yes. So the new one that's premiering tonight on FX is called Justified, City Primeval, and it is a mashup of a show that was on maybe 6-7 years ago called Justified, and they took the lead character from that show, cowboy hat wearing Tim Oliphant, and a lot of swagger, very cool show, was very popular, and dropped him into an Elmore Leonard, not a new Elmore Leonard book, but an Elmore Leonard book called City Primeval, which takes place in Detroit, my hometown. And so it is a crazy, intense, funny, but seriously dramatic, with myself and Tim Oliphant, who plays the character from Justified, the lead guy in the cowboy hat. Ingenue Ellis, my sister Ingenue Ellis, who was nominated for an Oscar last year for her work. So she plays. She plays my lawyer, and I'm kind of her mentor in a way. So it's interesting dynamic the two of us had. Boyd, just an incredible cast. Keith David is in it.
Oh, wow.
It's just it's got some great people in it, and it certainly represents Detroit. Being from Detroit, it was great to be able to sort of
So you kind of you can know what's real and what's not.
know what's up. I could bring my character to life from the folks that I grew up with, that I saw growing up. Bring the verisimilitude of my hometown to this piece. So it's very, very exciting. It's got a 95 on Rotten Tomatoes thus far.
Wow.
So it's
pretty good.
Tune in tonight on FX. The first 2 episodes will be playing tonight, and then it starts streaming tomorrow on Hulu, starting tomorrow night. Yeah.
That sounds
Justified City Primeval.
Justified City Primeval.
City Primeval. Yeah.
Now, since your whole family basically are in the show business and entertainment industry, this strike is hitting home 2 times because your wife, who just finished doing the
Whitney movie,
the Whitney movie, who also did Harriet, you know, and I'm not sure what else she was starting to work on, but that puts kind of a hold on that work also.
Yeah. She's her main gig, she likes to say, is a writer, and she's writing a very big movie right now. Was before the strike, and so she's she's sitting at home thinking about new movies.
Well, question: if you're doing the writing, even though it's a strike, you can still use your creative knowledge in putting certain things in place.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Things that you're not hired for.
Right,
so
right.
She's using, because she's a writer and she writes every day, creatively, it's important for her to sit down and write. So she's coming up with ideas, creating a world of this new she's got this new dystopian movie that she's outlining now, that she owns, and it's going to be her next. I don't know if it'll be her next movie. She's got another movie that she's got to do when the strike is over, but that she's setting up to maybe do in a year or 2. So she's still being creative and still keeping the creative juices flowing for no money at the moment.
Well, but I think it's important though, and all things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
But it's important for many of the people who may be watching this to kind of see a side of this whole industry that's not always seen, especially for people like us.
Yeah.
Because if the people who don't look like us are going to do bad, I don't think things have changed as much as the people who look like us is going to do a little worse. Things haven't changed that much, I don't believe. So
you know what I'm saying? So yeah. so you do the math.
So it's something that has a relationship. But the other thing, though, and there's a yin and yang in all things, I believe that as you grow, and this is just my thought, it's easy for me to say because I haven't, reached any type of a level in that kind of a mindset. But my thought is that if you are able to reach a certain level in any type of a mindset, if you understand where you have come from, you tend to try to, no matter where you are, have an interaction with that community, that environment, that mindset, and trying to help, especially if you came from places that weren't necessarily the most motivating environments for success. Once things happen on the top that you have to crumble, is that old saying, at least you have cushions. You have
Mm-hmm.
people who have a relationship with you who can allow for other things to happen. And I believe that that's important in
Yeah.
wherever you are, but especially because you can get lost.
Yeah.
You know, that spotlight can, you know, you
Yeah.
can get lost, Rodney, which is why I always respect you as an individual, because you didn't get lost. You know, and it was easy for you to do that. You know,
Yeah.
or your wife.
Absolutely.
It's easy to get lost into who you are and
Yeah.
forget where you are,
Yeah.
and that's why we're having this conversation, actually,
Yeah. I mean,
because
I think one of those things is, I think, always staying in gratitude, you know. I
yeah,
mean, it is amazing that I have been able to be in this business for, I don't know, 35, 40 years and still thrive. Um, you know, I could still be, you know, sitting on the corner in Detroit, you know. So A, so gratitude, staying in gratitude, and B, you know, just being aware that I see myself in every brother and sister that I see out there, right? There's no difference between me and the brothers that I grew up with, the sisters that I came up with, you know, that I still communicate with back in my neighborhood on 8 Mile Road in Detroit. Um, so so just being aware of, like you said, where you come from,
right.
staying connected to that community. I can
Mhm.
always remember I directed this movie. I was kind of on the top of the world, and I directed my first movie was a big hit. I directed this movie with Tupac called Gridlock. Yeah,
Like, yeah,
everything was coming at me. My second movie tanked. It was called Glitter. I did it with Mariah Carey, and it
yeah,
just got hammered. And I can remember just being so depressed. And I can remember going back to Detroit for my elementary school reunion. So I went back to Detroit. There's like, I got a notice saying we're having a reunion, elementary school. I went to a Catholic school in Detroit, black nuns, first order of black nuns and whatever. And so I went back, and I literally saw people that I was in kindergarten with.
wow,
And it was so healing. You know what I mean? It
mm,
was like so healing to actually talk about where you came from.
right,
It just put things in perspective that show business is just, you know, it's just a job. It is not your life. It is not who you are. It is not, you know,
mhm,
it's a universe with which I make a living and kind of try to navigate through. But you know, your life is your family, where you came from, your people, and I'll never forget that just being in that reunion with people I hadn't seen, you know, in 50 years. You know,
well, you
amazing.
know, again, it's, I think, the spiritual connections that we have from birth, you know, and some of us follow those things, and some of us get caught into
Mm-hmm.
the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can gain the world, but if you lose your soul, it
Yeah.
it 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 it, it, it doesn't end well.
We've seen that movie.
Because when your world goes, you know, you got to pay the pop. You know, you got to pay that price.
Yeah.
Price
Yeah.
could be real difficult if you have done that. If you've made that deal.
Yeah.
And when you were in Detroit, what brought you to New York? How did you make that transition?
Yeah. I came to school. I went to Juilliard in here, and so I had a great deal of training in New York, and I had a mentor who was one of the early Black graduates of Juilliard, and it was one of my mentors in Detroit. And he sort of set me up for audition and what have you, and I ultimately ended up getting in, and so that got me to New York, and you know, rest is history.
You stayed.
Yeah, I stayed. Oh, I actually went back. I actually was there for a bit, and really kind of crashed and burned after school, and went back to Detroit and worked for the Detroit School of the Arts. Detroit Council of the Arts for a bit, and then regrouped and came back to New York, and you know, dove back in, and you know, finally
got it again.
got a foothold. Yeah.
How did you meet Casey? Was it in New York or?
I met Casey in New York. I met her in a dance class. I was working. I don't know if I was working on Broadway at the time. I may have been working on Broadway at the time. And I would go to take dance class to warm up before going to the theater. And I saw this beautiful young woman in a red leotard with flaming hair. I went up to her and said, "Hey." And she just walked away from me. She didn't talk to me. But eventually I got to be friends, and you know.
That's an interesting story. And what did you do when you were on Broadway? I mean, what were you in?
When I worked on Broadway, I did Dreamgirls on Broadway. I was in the original cast of Dreamgirls. We did the workshop that for about a year, developing Dreamgirls, where you know we'd improv and sing songs and make up stuff, and that ultimately ended up becoming the workshop ended up becoming the show. So we went took it out on tour out to Boston, and then brought it back to Broadway. So Dreamgirls was a big hit of mine on Broadway. And then I worked with Lena Horne on Broadway. I sang with her, and I was the lead dancer with her. I was the only male, and we sang some duets. I worked on Broadway. I did another show called "It's So Nice to Be Civilized," which ran for about a week. That was like a big, you know, that was my first Broadway show. I thought, oh man, you made it. And you know, it was an opera director that I had met when I was in school, and it was his first Broadway show. But he was a big famous opera director, and he hired me for that show, and I sang and danced in the chorus of that show, and it ran about a week. And so I didn't have a chance to, I spent my first paycheck, and then I was back selling typewriter ribbon and playing guitar and you know, down in the village.
So you met Casey in a dance class. Did she have the idea of going into some of the things she's doing now as was directing? Because she was in acting before that, right?
Yeah, she was an actor before that. At that point she was on scholarship at Alvin Ailey, and she was doing some commercials and things like that. So when we first started hanging out, she was a dancer and an actor, and then she started writing while she was acting. And Bill Cosby gave her her first job as a writer. She put her together with a couple seasoned television writers, a couple women, and they sort of mentored her to her first script, and she kept writing from there. And finally, she wrote Eve's Bayou. And couldn't get a director for it, and ultimately said, you know, I should just direct it. and so that's how she became a writer director. And she, of course, has never looked back since.
It's funny you mentioned Bill Cosby. I had last week William Spaceman Patterson on, who did
okay.
Do you know Space?
I don't know, but I've heard of
yeah. You know, he's kind of said the same thing. Now, but I saw something because I was doing some research because I was going to interview Casey at one time, and then a lot of stuff happened. Mm-hmm. And she was in some sort of a TV series.
Right.
Because I remember seeing it, and it was a police story or something like that.
Probably.
And I said, wow, because as I was doing it, that was just one of the credits, and I have to look back on that. But that was some time ago, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think she did. Maybe it was Spencer for Hire or
something like that. I know it was a Cops and Robber type thing.
Yeah, she did a number. She did some pilots, and of course, she did a lot of movies as an actor. Of course, Silence of the Lambs was probably the most famous movie she did.
Yeah, that's one of the ones too, because she played the part. Her
Jodie Foster's.
Jodie Foster's
partner, roommate. Yeah. But yeah, she acted in a lot of movies. She was a child actor actually, in back in Boston where she grew up. And she's from St. Louis, but she grew up from the time she was about 8 in Boston, and went to Boston. Was a member of Boston Children's Theater. So she's been acting a really long time.
Talented genes. Matter of fact, and Harriet, your son was in Harriet.
So, yeah, my son.
That was a whole family thing.
That was a great family affair to have the Casey write and direct that movie, and work with my son for the first time. We didn't work directly together, but we were in a couple scenes together without actually talking to each other. I thought he was great in that movie. He was really, I was really proud of him.
He was the guy with the hat. The
guy
with the restaurant.
The guy with the hat. I was like, okay, so the money we spent for you to go to college, drama school, wasn't a waste. I'm happy to see that you do that.
Has he decided where he's going or doing anything in that business, or tried to get away from it? Because sometimes that whole family thing can become, burden sometimes.
He is. It's interesting. He was on a big hit Netflix series called The Watcher. He's got a couple movies coming out. He's got this Basquiat movie coming out.
What was that?
Basquiat.
Okay.
He's got a movie about Basquiat coming out. So he's hanging in there, and he started writing. And so you talk about family business. We'll see. Maybe he'll also be a writer, director, actor. So he's, but yeah, at the moment he's in the 85% of the unemployed actors.
Who's on strike, right?
Who's on strike, yes. Well, it's 100% of us unemployed right now because we're on strike. But yeah, the 85% who before the strike were not working.
Right. So that's a strike.
You're waiting for his movie to come out. Yeah.
and then Harriet was, successful. And did you have any input in the development of that at all?
No, I mean, beyond, I read all the scripts that she does or she's going to do, or she'll ask my opinion, and we do that with each other. And every project we are working on or doing, we will run it by the other and get input, get some notes. Watch the movie. I don't know. I saw Harriet 20 times. Gave her notes and stuff. Or the same with Whitney. so we're there to support each other, and we take each other's creative advice. I really respect her as an artist, and I
You know, there's always conspiracy theories. Matter of fact, conspiracy theories, I just saw it on one of my things, started in 1964 when they were doing the investigation of the assassination of JFK. They started this, anything that people didn't want you to know, they just threw conspiracy theories in it, and then it automatically had a label. But there's a conspiracy theory about the fact that they feel that Whitney did not die of that was something that was done to her rather than something that she did to herself.
Ah, interesting. Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't.
Because I mean, and because there something that the cameras in the hotel wasn't working all of a sudden, and there were certain things that took place that are always good for conspiracy theories.
Right.
And then you would say, yeah, well, it just so happened that did happen. So
Yeah.
it could be, there was some interesting things. But was that a hard, from your perspective, writing kind of like, because, it was a good up and down type of a story.
Right.
That when you're writing stuff like that, or when you're acting and you really get into it, do you feel some of that energy or some of that sadness, or in order to really allow for other people to see it through your work?
Well, I would say, I mean, I didn't write that particular movie, but
in any type, even though that one was more.
But with regard to, yeah, I mean, I think you're sitting there and you are trying to find a narrative and situations in your scenes between characters that move you and that are true to the characters that you're writing. And so you want to feel something when you're writing. If you feel it, maybe somebody else will feel it.
Right.
You know, I never try to work outside of my own personal feeling about a scene or a movie or I am deeply trying to figure, is this true for this character in this moment? Is the choice this character making in the moment the choice that they would make based on who they are and where they're trying to go? What is it they're trying to achieve? So I'm always trying to focus in that. And so when you talk about the highs and lows of the emotional journey, you are certainly taking that journey as you're writing. And I guess being moved yourself.
And I guess what I was thinking about also, Vondie, and it's always good to be able to talk to a person who teaches and who's involved in all of these aspects, because it's good to hear what your thoughts are. But there are certain actors who become their part, their subject, point where they begin to dress, or they do certain things to actually become that entity. And sometimes that works to the point where they do become, in a sense, that entity, at least on film. Doing that over a period of time, they say that there's a thin line between brilliance and insanity. But what's your thought of how that, to be able to put your mind into a character to that point, and then what's the downside of that?
Well, the downside is you have to shake it off eventually. You have to shed the energy and consciousness of that character, because you're in fact manifesting that, right?
Right.
You are becoming that person, be it good or bad, and you're harnessing the spiritual consciousness energy of that character. So if you're playing Martin Luther King, it's probably a good thing. they try to carry that energy, stay in that high consciousness. But if you're playing Charles Manson, it's probably not a great thing to hold on to that.
Right.
Trying to, and that's probably when this probably as a spiritual practitioner, where you're dealing with lots of different types of energy, where you really want to try to shed that. I mean, if you're working with lots of people who are ill, and you have to, you
have to find a way.
Then you want to clean that energy away. You want to get rid of that. You don't want to carry that with you.
Right. However, if you don't understand that,
you don't understand
how to change the frequency.
Yeah.
If things come from a habit, because you could be working on a character maybe for a year or 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like in the martial arts, if I'm doing something for over and over and over every day, it becomes a reflex.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's, I think, the challenge, and that, I guess, the craft, to be able to understand, like any craft.
Yeah.
You have to understand how, once you become so good at it that you can make magic, you have to make sure that magic doesn't, backfire.
Yeah. And every actor has their own process. I mean, there's some actors they'll be texting and making a joke, and then you say action, and boom, they just go right into that head, and they just act it, right? And there are other actors who, like you said, they're carrying the energy of it. They're dressing the way that character is. You got to call them by their character's name. So every actor has their own process, and there's neither good nor bad. It's just, how are you interacting with the other cast members, right? Mm-hmm. And how are you interacting with yourself ultimately after that movie or television show is over?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Vondie, we're getting close to a time, but one thing that I always ask you is, what was it like working in the first Coming to America? Because it looked like that could have been fun to do, but that's in the front of the screen.
Yeah,
there were some funny people there.
It was really a fun show to do, but we didn't know at the time. We didn't know that it was going to be this iconic show. It was, we all auditioned. I can remember, nobody had blown up at that point. I mean, Sam Jackson, myself, I think Cuba Gooding was an extra in it, Eric LaSalle. There's so many of us New York actors, because John Landis came to New York to audition everybody, and we all just auditioned, and then we all did our scenes. I was sort of a contained little component with at the sports arena with Eddie, mm-hmm. in my scene, and Sam did his thing, I think, at the McDonald's or whatever. Everybody, but we didn't know until we saw the movie, a year later, that how funny it was, and how, because I was really, I probably worked 3 days on it or something like that, so we're all sort of compartmentalized, as often you are in movies, unless you are, one of the leads and you're in, the bulk of the movie. But so the experience of working with Eddie, we've remained friends ever since that. I know it was 30-something years ago, and whenever we see each other, we hug, and he's invited me some parties when we lived in LA, mm-hmm. and stuff like that. But it was a great experience to be. That's one of the movies that if I walk down the street in Harlem, everybody goes, I'm getting,
because it's not only it's coming back, but when the sequel came, it started playing more and more also.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I never saw the sequel. How was the sequel anyway?
It was okay. I mean, nothing as good as the first time, but
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
was, it was okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But,
So it was great to be part of it.
well, again, man, it's always good to talk. This is usually the more, when we're seeing each other, you're either doing finances or spiritual stuff, or so we don't really get a chance to talk to each other except for when we're doing our interviews to get an update on some of the things that are going on. Because I didn't even know. I'm glad FX, and if not FX, FX is not cable. Is FX cable?
FX is cable. Yeah. FX is cable.
Right.
It's the same station that I think the Bear, which is a big hit right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And if not Hulu,
all owned by, it's all Disney, all owned by Disney.
Yeah.
They're all just Disney channels, different kinds.
Which is interesting.
Disney platforms.
They said that Michael Jackson might have been able to have all of this stuff. That was another conspiracy theory.
Wow.
Because he was going into that area where Disney took over as far as having certain types of ownership. I mean, it goes all. I mean, even with Bill Cosby, with NBC, all of those.
Right, when he tried to buy the network, yeah.
Because conspiracy theories was always placed in places where they didn't want you to know what's really going on, like the aliens and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But listen, one thing is for true. Vondie Curtis Hall is not a conspiracy theory. You're here.
I'm here. I'm here.
And we'll see you tonight, or that, and this is a series. This is going to go. How many? There
are 8 episodes, limited series. Yep.
Okay,
so the first 2 episodes are aired tonight.
So you'll be on for a minute. I'm sure there's going to be a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it definitely will be.
Okay.
It's a great show. Yeah.
Well, all the best to you, and thanks for your time. My regards to the family, and take care of yourself.
You too.
I'm sure that we'll be seeing each other anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Bye.
Good to see you, Tony.
All right. Thank you, Vondie. And that is a real great guy. You can feel the interview of Vondie, who's done so much stuff that we haven't even had a chance to really talk about all of the different movies and things that he was in, and his wife. And next week, looking at continuing the production interviews, Jamal Joseph will be a guest next week. We're still working out the time things, but and Jamal is the godfather of Tupac Shakur, and as you know, the 50th anniversary of hip hop, and a lot of people are starting to look back at different events. But there's I think it's either Hulu or one of the shows, Dear Mama, is and maybe on HBO or one of those cable networks. But it's an interesting story that Jamal produced about Tupac and his life, and some of the things that, and really Afeni Shakur, which was his mother, who was a Panther. So we'll hopefully make sure that we keep bringing interesting and sometimes controversial guests, so that we could make the whole idea of Soul City is to make sure that we can control our own narrative and to be able to present things that sometimes you don't, or many times you don't see on other networks. So thank you, Matt McCoy and Jasmine and all of the crew for giving me this platform. And God willing, I'll see you next week. Take care.
This is Kia Rogers, and you're listening to Urbanology with my dad, Tony Rogers, on WHCR 90.3 FM New York.